Okay, so we have a panel today on challenges and opportunities in the hardware space, and we have three panelists joining us, correct? So we have first Mr. Alejandro Alonso from Infinium Robotics. Could you please join us? And then next up we have Kelvin Ong from Focus Tech Ventures. And lastly we have Alexa, right? Alexa Zotova from Rubento Ventures. So we have two VCs and one entrepreneur, so it's going to be an interesting session. All right, so let's start by getting the panelists to just share really quickly in a minute what exactly you guys do and how exactly you all are involved in the hardware space. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I already presented today, but I'm happy to share once again. I'm investment manager at Rubento Ventures, the fund which is now investing heavily in B2B and B2C IoT, mostly in B2B. So we also try to help startups with smart capital through our acceleration program. And overall, we invest globally in the United States, in Singapore, and in some other parts of the world, now looking at China as well. So happy to proceed with discussion and pass the word to other colleagues.
Hey, hi everyone. So my name is Kelvin. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Focus Tech Ventures. So my personal background has been in manufacturing. So I used to come from the precision engineering sector. So after we sold the company, we started to invest into early stage startups through my personal vehicle. It's already this year that we started to actually set up a new fund called TMB Ventures with a few partners. So I'm pretty much the partner in charge of anything that's more atoms rather than bits. So I look across different technology platforms from AR, VR to IoT to robotics, and we're pretty sector agnostic. So looking forward to the discussion today.
Great, thanks, Kelvin.
My name is Alexander Alonso. I'm the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Infinium Robotics. Probably you saw Yunian Wang, the CEO, speaking about our company. And the reason I am here is mainly because I could talk about the hardware part, the technology part, and also my background as creating my own company in robotics. I understand the way investors think, the reason why I'm here.
So Alex, we spoke earlier, right, outside, and then let's jump in like really into the panel, right? Your company is based in Singapore, and how has Singapore been like a great ecosystem for a hardware company like you?
The company is based in Singapore. We are developing different kind of hardware solutions based in robotics, and the way I would say, I could imagine that most of the people here are entrepreneurs or possibly okay. So the way we do things here in Singapore is that this company is producing different kind of technology. The good thing of this company is that it could look out of the box. This is the important thing, because if you do the same as any other one, you are not competitive. So this is what we are doing, and it's our real value, that we try to find good solutions for customers that really are useful and cost-effective. The way we do that.
So from an investor standpoint, right, Kelvin and Alexa, right, what are kind of the opportunities you all are seeing and that investors are getting excited about, that investments are happening specifically within the hardware space? So maybe Kelvin, you go first.
So we focus We're pretty sector agnostic, as I mentioned. So, but particularly we are excited about this new, I would say, a new computing paradigm that you see right now, whereby you see this, it's not just like IoT in itself, there's a lot of conversions between the software side of things with AI as well. So personally, we are quite interested in mainly on the B2B space, how we can use kind of commoditized sensors and collect data and try to apply it towards making your B2B customers' value chain more precise in capturing data and making decisions. So to that we are, because I know definitely I think Alexa is more on the consumer side. So to me some of the sectors we look at are in the areas of smart buildings, precision agriculture. These are the areas that are pretty interesting.
So you're excited about sensors, data that are built on top of IoT and hardware, specifically for B2B. And then your side, Alexa?
Well, I would answer this question in two steps. So as Kelvin mentioned, yeah, we've been traditionally looking more on the consumer side and trying to help our founders on the branding, on marketing, crowdfunding. Yeah, probably I just showed a couple of stories today. But interestingly, and Kelvin knows some of our startups, even B2C startups start converting more into data play, more into subscription models, more into B2B in fact, and this model proves to be actually more sustainable in the long term in terms of just uniqueness of the business model itself. There are less competitors and there is a good market in Singapore for that. There are many corporations, there are many clients for that, and I cannot say exactly about each country in Southeast Asia, but I'm sure there are a lot of unsolved problems in traditional industries, like again in agriculture, in marine industry. We can even not think of today, but there are creative solutions we hear of. So yeah, and we are definitely starting to widen our focus in more IoT. And of course in Singapore, AI is also, in my opinion, as far as what I saw, there are some strong opportunities, there are some interesting opportunities, and which can scale globally much faster even.
Right, so I'm guessing a lot of the guys here either are working on prototypes that could be companies someday or are looking at doing that someday, right? And obviously investment is a big part of that, right? So for hardware, especially for hardware type companies, when do you think is the right time for them to look at investment? How early should they be speaking to you all? What stage should the prototypes be in? So essentially is how should these startups approach the investors, specifically for those building hardware type companies? Okay, yeah.
So for us, it's very important that the product is built. We met several teams who was struggling with this part, and if they can just be in the R&D for 2 years after they claim that the prototype is finished, and I would say that's a very risky part, and we as an investor would like to avoid that. But as a fund, we recently started to look at more market validation as well. Like if it's B2B, then it should be like LOIs or pilots. If it's B2C, then certain market validation, like pre-crowdfunding. Yeah, that's something we can help of, but they should have a website, they should have some already metrics, they should have a good team. Actually, the team is very important, the execution team, especially in hardware. And that's why sometimes projects take time to reach those milestones before they can get the investments. Sometimes it takes longer.
Yeah. Did you do this debt route? Like, I mean, you guys are a hardware company. Did you all go through the funding route? How did it work for you guys?
Yeah. Well, this is something that probably our CEO is more equipped to tell that. But we had different kind of investors investing in different phases of the company. But I could tell you something that I think may be important. At least in Europe, investors consider very important if a company, first of all, have, like Alexa says, a product or a prototype, a proof of concept that you could do that thing. It's not just an idea. Another important thing is that if you get the first investing part from family or friends, that validates you much better because it means that you are really very involved in that. So involved that you could involve your family, your friends, could lose them, the relationship with them. So this normally gives like a very, very, very good sensation. I mean, for
So are your family and friends involved in this company that you started?
in Infinite Robotics, I think so.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, that's good. Very good. And Kelvin, do you agree? Like, how would you build up on the advice that you think get?
So I think it's not unlike in software. I think I think the bar has been raised a little bit. You have to start to have a early prototype, early validation. So the nice thing is that I think a lot of the open source hardware is enabling this. So I think to cobble together at least a pretty ugly looking, but at least it works kind of prototype to prove the concept is very possible today. So with that, I think wearing a more angel investment hat, I'll be happy to come in and look at a team that's passionate about solving that problem. But when they kind of wear the VC hat, and of course it's a different thing, I think they have to prove certain level of validation. At least they have to go out there and maybe post, if it's a consumer product, probably post crowdfunding campaign, early validation, few thousand initial backers. So there are some data points that we will kind of churn before we will come in at a later stage.
So, I mean, we've seen a lot of accelerators in Singapore. Very few focus on hardware. And then the one that obviously that a lot of people know is the accelerator in China, right? Super popular. Do you advise companies to actually explore the accelerator route to get to the prototype stage? Or would you all have or what are your views on the acceleration model? Alexa?
Well, that's a tricky question. There are some teams that can avoid accelerator and they grow even faster. That's the main point. So that's probably why we look at both sides, not only accelerator but also directly. That's just specifics of this venture industry. There are some founders kind of they're so good at execution that they don't need accelerator.
Right.
But there are, of course, some teams that who can get value out of that. Well, I know Hux a lot. I mean, the fact that they're based in China, I know how it helps them, in fact, because I contacted several teams out of Hux Accelerator, and they are all based in Europe or in the United States, actually, and they don't really figure out manufacturing yet. So I'm not sure whether Hux Accelerator really helps all of the members to figure out the manufacturing process with all its pitfalls and problems. Maybe some of them don't survive till that moment, I don't know. So, but definitely, but at the same time there are teams who take 3 accelerators because they still haven't figured out some problems on their way and they need new accelerator to still wait until the round A. So of course, I mean, there is no one answer, right?
Kelvin, do you have a take on it?
So maybe I can give an example. One of my first few investments is a company called Vibees.
Okay. Yes.
So it's basically a sex toy company. So basically they went to Hacks. I think Hacks really helped them in terms of, this for them is a relatively straightforward product, but they were struggling to find a good CM, injection molding and whatnot. So they went there, they got quite a few good introductions to manufacturers there. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think the community there is pretty strong. So they're running their batch 2 or 3 only, but there's already a very strong community within the accelerator. So what they did was that, I remember in their video, he was a pizza boy and the guy is crowdfunding video. So it's they're all kind of helping each other. And one of those companies is building a Wi-Fi chip that's being used by the other folks. So I think it's almost like how the other type of accelerators started, Y Combinators and whatnot. You do have that kind of alumni connections to really help you.
So in your case, really the community, there was a very good supporting network for Vibees, for example, right? Yeah. So in Infinium's case, right, when it came to looking at investors, not that many investors really get hardware, right? It's a very, very small pool. So how did you all go about finding those right type of people that really understood what is it that you all were doing?
I agree with you. The problem of HardTech is that investors, I think, are reluctant in most of the cases. That's because normally the research and development phase is quite long, and sometimes the investment requires more investment because they will not find the correct solution. In the case of Infinite Robotics, also part of the investment was from family and friends. And we think of family and friends investing in your company is that they may invest on you just in the idea, not in the final product or in the final prototype. Just in the idea, they believe on you, they believe on the person, and I think it's very important because a company is not only the product, it's the people that are under that product. So I think this is a very good way of starting. Also, accelerators are obviously very important, but family and friends are very important to make you start with your ideas. And whenever you have something simple, I would propose something simple. Not try to reinvent the wheel, something simple that could put in the market. Then show that to the investors. And obviously, investors are people that really want to invest the money because they want to move the money. They really want to move the money. The question is that they will put the money. There is something wrong with me. Obviously,
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
obviously there is something wrong with my voice. Sorry for that. So this is my take, that I would propose people to start with those investors, family, friends. You could convince with an idea, with business plan, then start, do something simple, and when you have something, go to investors.
So I want to ask a question to the audience, right? How many here are actually working on hardware prototypes and hope to like make it to a company or commercialize it someday? How many of you here? Small number, right? Okay, actually quite a few. How many of you haven't started yet but aspire to do so maybe the next 1 year? Okay. So what are the rest of you doing? I'm curious. Are you still studying? Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, so back to the investor part, right? Yeah. Yeah, I was really curious as well. Okay, so let's look at the ecosystem. Okay, government spending a lot of money, clearly building the ecosystem. In terms of the challenge, what do you think is lacking in the ecosystem now that maybe organizations like IEEE, organizations like E27, or maybe the government or different groups of people can help and support and do better? Right, there's a lot of tension for the web ICT, but in terms of hardware, what can the ecosystem do better to create better companies? Maybe Kelvin, you want to start?
Sure. So coming from the Singapore perspective, I think I just had a discussion with some of the government agencies recently. So they are trying to, of course, try to encourage more engineering hardware related startups to kind of come out from Singapore. But what some of the pain points that everyone knows, including manufacturing, including cash flow, lack of investors understanding the space. These are the things that we are trying to kind of progressively solve. I think now we're trying to get more investors educated, for example, into investing into hardware. Once they understand what are the risk factors, it can be mitigated through a ecosystem of partners, then at least they'll be more willing to invest. So I think broadly what's lacking in general can be kind of can still be progressively built. But I think right now it's about opportunities, because right now a lot of the emerging trends is now converging at a time that if you don't capitalize on it now, it's going to be a problem. So I would say that right now the biggest issues will still be cash flow and manufacturing, but I think this can be mitigated because we have the right ecosystem partners in Shenzhen, in Taiwan, in Malaysia to help them.
Do you agree with that? How would you add on to that?
Well, I think it's one of the most serious questions probably, and I mean, I don't think I have really much to add. I think this answer is, was formed during a long period of time, and I totally understand because we also invest in hardware, but I believe that actually there is a lot of potential in Singapore to solve this problem. It's just probably that investors, the problems should be clearly identified. That solutions should be formulated, and there should be enough people trying to solve it.
So I'm always curious because in most of the founders that I talk to, right, they always have role models, right? And most of the role models for founders in the world would include, especially for the internet sector, with people like Zuckerberg and all that. And in Southeast Asia, I think you can say, you know, people like the founders of Grab, Zopay, you know, these are some of the role models that exist for the internet sector people. But in terms of hardware, like, do you guys have a sense of who are some of the role models are, or some of the potential mentors, right, that young founders can look up to, reach out to, or maybe get some advice? I'm curious if you guys have any.
Yeah. I would propose, well, you could learn from a lot of sources. One important source is to talk to other entrepreneurs that I would say have at least 2 years of experience. Even if they succeeded or not. Because not succeeded showed you a lot of things. And succeeding also showed you a lot of things. So it is good to talk to both kind of people. Also forums, for sure, talking with investors to understand what they want, how they see the world, talking to the market, potential customers, getting ideas from them, and also with business development people that could tell you how to develop business, because at the end it's very important that the market is there and you are producing something for the market. You could produce something very nice, hardware product that you could show to your friends, and yeah, it's very funny, very nice, but you are not going to sell that maybe. You need to focus on the market and produce something for the market. This is your north, not what you know how to do or whatever. This is there.
So you would zoom in on the market, right? The people within the industry, like customers and all that, Kelvin?
So just to add on, I think I totally agree that especially when you do B2B, I think a lot of the pain points you really need to get from the market side of things. So I think one of the category of mentors I think is important in the early phases is those guys who really can help you get from the 0 to 1 and then 1 to small build. I think that's a skill set that actually a lot of the veterans in the manufacturing space actually have a lot of this kind of, I would say, expertise. So, of course, the early phases as I mentioned, you have a lot of open source hardware, the maker communities, a lot of peer-to-peer, kind of advice can come through. But it comes to a stage whereby you need to go towards your engineering verification process. You have to go through your DVT, PVT. You start to understand how this can be translated into manufacturing process to make it repeatable, right? Quality, a lot of things is not that straightforward. So those are the things that you need to really find mentors who are quite deep into this space to give you advice and parachute them in early so that you can mitigate a lot of the wrong paths that you move.
Are there a few in the top of your head that you can think of here?
Actually, there are a lot of ex-HP alumni, as you know, here in this part of Singapore. I think today I invited a few here today as well. So they are really very helpful folks. They know a lot of people in the ecosystem. I do have a good set of partners in Taiwan. So actually, I'm quite committed to maybe even next year I'll bring a team of startups who are keen to kind of like get help in Taiwan. Maybe before maybe the June period, I'll bring them down. So these are some of the guys that have been in the likes of Foxconn and Jabil for at least like 15, 20 years, project management roles. So these are very helpful people. I just mentioned about role models. I think Singapore, off the top of my head, I think of, I think the Razer CEO, that's one of the key ones. Of course, you have Sing Mong Hu, Osin, so a couple of big brands, but a lot of them are consumer. So I think these are some good mentors that you can think about.
Alexa?
Well, I was also thinking of Razer and Osim as well.
Rockstar though, very hard to get him. Half the time when you see him in public, people are always trying to take a picture with him because he's so popular, right? But would he be able to be a good mentor though? Does he have the capability, the time and the energy?
It depends. Actually, we tried. Our partners know. They say that they know Millian, but personally, I wanted to contact with him for some, just because some startups needed help. But I believe that sometimes, in order to arrange something, you need to take a lot of time in advance because people are really busy. The guy built a huge corporation. But it's a good example for many startups.
So in that case, if you're a startup, right, how would you approach to getting a mentor or getting help, at least in the hardware space for your startups? Like how have maybe some of your investee companies done that?
In that case, we were pretty straightforward. So this year, during our Enchant program, we arranged several mentors from JBL, from Venture Corporation. Also, it's a Singaporean company, but it also has presence in Shenzhen in the United States. It's a manufacturer. There were some other smaller players on specifically manufacturing market, but I would say that also we see a lot of support from players in Shenzhen who are running hybrid model of helping startups, which is a bit step ahead. Like, you know, there is a company called Shenzhen Valley Ventures. They are doing a new model to help hardware startups. And I mean, how they try to support startups is really very new. It's something interesting we didn't see before.
What was it called again?
It's SVV, it's Shenzhen Valley Ventures. I mean, they are also, you know, backed by contract manufacturers. But there are some yeah, I mean, no point talking about, you know, there is joint accelerator manufacturer models like PCH plus Highway 1. Actually, we also looked at several cases there. You know, there is never one recipe. You know, for many startups from Highway, for instance, PCH was not the main source of help and support, and so they had to figure out something else. So it's usually more about that you see the startup, you understand how you can help them. And I would say even at Enchant, although we brought all those mentors, it's still case by case. You need to figure out with CTO, not even with sales, sometimes with CTO you need to figure out how you can help him.
So I think with the two of you, you'll probably see like a ton of founders and all the ideas, right? And with yourself, when you started, you guys probably made a lot of early mistakes that you guys fixed along the way. So I want to understand from your end, what were some of the earliest mistakes you all made that you all kind of didn't foresee at all? And how did you guys fix them? And then I'll get the investor's perspective on what are some of the earliest mistakes they see in founders, so that these guys can, you know, hopefully avoid or mitigate those mistakes.
Okay, in this case, I was not in Infinite Robotics in the early stages. I could not talk about that, but I could talk about the experience of the company I created in Spain, robotics.
Sure.
And one of the mistakes that you normally have is that, for example, you forget on some things, like if you are going to produce hardware, you have to go to a market and mass product. Mass production is very expensive, and you need to go to mass production to reduce your costs. If you have a prototype and you say, okay, let's go to the market, and you try to produce 10 units, then, okay, you will have the money to produce 10 units, but the cost will be very high. So it will be difficult to go to the market with high price. So you have to consider that. Also, support. Because you produce something, a piece of hardware that could fail, and you need to support that. And if you sell that in your country, okay, you may support that. But what happens if you sell outside? And you need to consider always that we are a global world, so you need to consider selling outside. So this is something that you may fail, not considering that. And also all the part of the research and development and integration. Integration is like the whole, you could lose a lot of time and money integrating things, integrating different parts of a solution. So this is very important that you consider that this normally takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and you have to consider that into your investment.
So it would be the cost first, and then the support and the integration.